Here's my question to you, Peter. How many wins do the Browns have to have for there to at least be a conversation as to whether Brissett should continue when Deshaun Watson walks back through the door, ready to go face the Texans, and he hasn't played since a cameo appearance at the start of the preseason, and before that, he hadn't played in a year and a half. And you got a guy who's been going every week, playing well. How many wins? Is it 6? Is it 7? At what point? Is it 5? At what point do we say we may be better off with the guy who's been playing?
I asked Kevin Stefanski that question, Mike, on, I believe it was August 21st. They had just played Philadelphia in a preseason game. And after the game, I sat with Stefanski in his office and we talked about this. And he made it very clear that in that, when Deshaun Watson comes back, he is playing. And we'll see. It's easy to say that on August 21st. And I don't doubt Stefanski. I think he almost certainly is playing. But I also think that if you're, let's say, 7-3 at the time of that game, it at least has to be a discussion. Because, Mike, I think the one thing that people have not talked about enough is that if you have not played in a football game for 100 weeks, for 700 days, which is exactly how long it will have been since you last played in a football game, and that'll be the case for Deshaun Watson when presumably he gets under center in Houston in December. If you have not played a football game in that long, you have to ask yourself the question. It'd be like asking a starting pitcher who's been out for a year and a half to come in and throw 7 innings, in his first game back. It's probably totally unrealistic to do. But I understand exactly what you're saying about this, and I think that that's a problem that Kevin Stefanski would absolutely love to have. But I don't think, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks, unless it is like a Dak Prescott, Tony Romo situation, I think it is highly, highly unlikely that they would consider continuing to play Brissett. And certainly if Brissett plays 1 or 2 weeks after Watson is ready, I don't think he's going to stay in the lineup. And let me just say one other thing. I don't know who asked the question to Jacoby Brissett. I forget, are you playing your best football? Are you playing some of your best football or whatever it was? Just remember, when Andrew Luck dropped the bombshell on the Indianapolis Colts in August 2019, and Jacoby Brissett, to the shock of all, started playing and played that entire season. Remember, he started that year 5-2, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a lot of people in Indianapolis were saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, maybe this guy is our answer. Because for 7 weeks, he played like an above-average starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, it didn't continue that way. We all know that. But my point is, Jacoby Brissett is capable of playing football at a good to very good level in the NFL. And I'm not saying that's good enough to be anybody's quarterback for a long time. I am saying that if he plays like he did last night, and start stacking games like that over and over again against a tough schedule, mind you. But if he does that, he is going to give Kevin Stefanski a decision that he's going to have to make come December.
And I hope that at the appropriate time, a conversation is had, the due diligence is exercised, and a decision that is made based upon the best interests of the Browns right now. What's in the best interest of the team? Is it in their best interest to continue with a guy who the locker room has rallied around and is winning games? And again, it all hinges on how many more wins they can get between now and early December. They have 8 more games to go. They're 2-1. If it's 5, 6, 7 wins, and there aren't a lot of wins, as we said earlier, screaming out of that upcoming schedule. But I hope that they have the conversation about what's in the best interest of the team, acknowledging your point that Deshaun Watson is coming in relatively cold. And I hope that it's not just a knee-jerk, absolutely positively, it will be Deshaun Watson because ownership paid all that money and ownership dealt with all that crap and ownership wants this guy in there no matter what. I hope this doesn't become an exercise in dysfunctional teams doing dysfunctional things. And it would be the height of dysfunction to just say, hey, we went and got this guy. We're using him, period. I hope that's not what the Browns do. I hope that's not the reasoning, Peter, in the notion that no matter what, Watson plays. It can't be no matter what. What if they win all the games between now and then? There has to be a point where they've done well enough with Jacoby Brissett that you at least entertain the possibility that you should continue to play him while Deshaun Watson works his way into game readiness. And it would be the height of stupidity for the Browns to not at least have that conversation.
I think it's putting the cart before the horse, another horrible cliche, because it's hard if you put the cart before the horse, then the horse would have to push the cart. But anyway, putting the cart before the horse, I do think is a little bit premature here because I just can't imagine Jacoby Brissett winning a bunch of those games that you just put up on the board.
Right.
I can't imagine Jacoby. Now, look, if Jacoby Brissett beats the Bucs and wins at Miami and at Buffalo, okay, then all of a sudden, the landscape has changed radically. But I'm always of the opinion, let's let him do it first. It reminds me of the headline, and I forget where I saw it, before, like, entering week 1 of this season. I forget who wrote this story. Aiden Hutchinson is better than you think. And I said to myself, I mean, there haven't been any games yet. Could we at least allow him to play some games before we say he's better than you think? And anyway, I do think that sometimes we enjoy looking at the next 2 months before they happen and start to say, well, what if? Well, of course, what if? If he beats Buffalo, Miami, and Cincinnati or Baltimore and Tampa, of course they're going to have a decision to make. But I just think if is a very big word in that conversation.
I agree with you completely, Peter, but I also say this. There is a fine line between putting the cart before the horse and engaging in strategic planning. And at how much energy does it take to have a 5-minute conversation among the brain trust of the Browns that we're going to need to have a plan. If we keep winning these games, and we know that's a big if, but we have to be flexible. We can't just have this knee-jerk Deshaun Watson comes back depending upon. So we need to at least be thinking about that in your quiet moment while you're trying to fall asleep at night, while you're driving to work, whatever it may be. At least entertain what our strategy is going to be because we need to have a strategy to get all the way back to where we started this and to piss off our good friend Nick, who didn't like us talking about the loss to the Jets. If they had a little more strategic thinking in that moment, they'd be 3-0 right now. I'm just saying strategic planning, have a plan for everything, and be ready for all contingencies on the flow chart. Even though we're not there yet, you can be thinking now, and the decision may very well take care of itself. But you have to have at least the door open to the possibility of continuing to play Jacoby Brissett. If you keep it slammed shut and say, no way, no how, will Deshaun Watson not play, you could be setting yourself up for a huge mistake. I want to give a little praise to Amari Cooper before we take our break here, because there were questions about whether or not when you take him from a controlled environment, good weather, artificial surface, and you put him in Cleveland on grass, you do the breakdown of his statistical achievement over the course of his career. Typically when he's played, when it's not ideal conditions, when it's on grass, he has not fared well. Well, he fared pretty well last night with 7 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. So it could be he's adapting to his new environment. He's growing. He's maturing. whatever the case may be, he's become by far the most reliable target for Jacoby Brissett. And I know that David Njoku had his catches too. And what a projection they made, paying him based upon what they planned to do with him, not what he'd already done in the NFL, because he got a big contract that his achievements didn't really justify, but they are now. But Cooper, credit to him. He's reliable. He's open. There was a play at one point, I think it was, and it starts to bleed together. I don't know if it was the touchdown drive or earlier, but they were bottled up with a third and manageable, and they did a little play action, and Cooper crossing left to right was wide open. I mean, he was wide open all night. So credit to Amari Cooper for being the kind of player that the Cowboys never should have given up on, because in hindsight, $20 million a year, when we look at what these other receivers are getting, is kind of a bargain. Cooper is earning his keep in Cleveland, and he was great last night. Without him, I don't know that they can pull that off, even with that running game.
You know, for a guy who, and I like Amari Cooper, but for a guy who's going to make $53 million on the cap, that's what his charge is over the next 2 3/4 years. He needs to make those plays, and they need to be able to count on him to be a number one receiver and a big play number one receiver. And so to me, I don't look at last night saying, oh man, what a fantastic game for Amari Cooper, as much as I say those are the kind of games he needs to have to justify the deal that was made for him, to bring him to Cleveland and to have him. Mike, just know this, the next 2 years after this year, he's 23.8 and 23.8 million on the cap. So I agree. Good for him. Played very well last night, and they really, really need him. And so to me, that's what he should be doing.
Oh, hey, it's definitely what he should be doing, and it's what they're paying him to do. All I know is there was a concern out there, and it was legitimate before the season began, that this guy's not going to perform the way you think he is when you take him out of a place like AT&T Stadium in Dallas, because historically he has not been great when they've played on the road on grass. But he's answering those questions. There was some concern that maybe the Browns blew it, and it looks like the Browns didn't blow it. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.